What's up, bro?
How you doing?
All right, man. So
Good.
it's the beginning. Talk of the Town podcast.
My name is Roy Bussall. I grew up in Seattle, Washington, born and raised.
My name is Javin Nash Harris. Jav Nash, whatever people call me.
I asked you, I was like, bro, man, we should start a podcast.
But I wanted to highlight some of the businesses and some of the talent as far as like sports is considered in Seattle, Tacoma area. I don't know, man. I just felt like I want to do something that highlights other people.
Like you said, put those people on the map, just to help the community out, grow the community together.
Hello, my name is Chardonnay Beaver, and we are here at Talk of the Town podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Now, I know this is a little bit different. I'm sure you're expecting Killa, Jav, and Roy, but you're here with me because we are doing an intro Get to Know Your Host episode. And so here with me today is Mr. Jav Nash. What's up, brother?
What's up? How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Great, blessed.
Great.
Yeah.
You guys have no idea, but this is literally, we go back like
4 flats on a Cadillac. That's what they say. That's just what they say. I don't know.
I tried to think to myself this morning how long you've been a part of my life. And I'm like, I just remember at your grandmother's house, your great grandmother's house, in the front yard, 4th of July.
Yeah,
this
4th
had
of
to be
July
like
parties.
05.
And y'all used to bring the fireworks out like a whole bundle of it, like a whole suitcase of it, like a lot of fireworks. Y'all did the thing. Yeah.
So this is like practically my whole life.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
So it's just awesome seeing you here in your element.
I'm glad to have you here.
It's great seeing your element. And also getting to this point. We're going to have so many laughs, so just follow us, guys.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's start with this. We're here at Talk of the Town podcast, right? We're here in the city, the 206.
Yeah.
I know this is just a full circle moment for you, for us. Now, tell me, what do you want viewers to know about you? Like, actually, let the people know. What do you want them to know about you, and what's brought you to this moment? It's a loaded question.
Yeah. That was a
right?
great intro too.
Thank you.
I want people to know about me. Whatever I share, I'm gonna be an open book on the podcast. I'm gonna be my authentic self, and I'm gonna bring my raw, authentic self to every episode and every guest that comes on. But I want people to be comfortable more than anything, to be able to open up to me. And part of the reason why I wanted to start a podcast is because people have said that to me. They've told me that they're comfortable speaking with me on different things. And what was the second part of the question?
And what's brought you to this moment?
Oh man, so before we got here, I was watching Snoop Dogg's GGN, his podcast. I used to watch Arsenio Hall, the Oprah Winfrey show on her network. I really love and I'm intrigued by interviews, like people giving a piece of the world their deeper selves. So like autobiographies, I like those kind of books. I like
You've always been a reader.
Yeah, I like getting to know people more than what they're known for. So like if you're an artist, okay, you make music or you paint or you dance, but what else? What else can we learn about you? So what brought me to this point was wanting to get to know other people, and then also wanting to give people a platform to express themselves and let the world know who they are. So
good. I hear you saying as well to like put it in my translation code.
yeah,
that it's about who you are beyond what you do.
yeah.
Because a lot of times we're more human doings than we are human beings.
Oh, I'm gonna have to think about that. Yeah, okay.
Sometimes there's power in just being, and if you can articulate how you are being, then man, you could really just have people feel seen and heard and respected. So that's awesome.
That's part of the reason why you're here too, is to help us articulate. Because I feel like sometimes my brain especially goes so many different places. I'm like, man, I want to say this, I want to say that, and helping us articulate things is a perfect reason as to why you're here and being an asset to all of us. So thank you for showing up again.
Happy, my pleasure to be here. Honestly, like I said, it's so fulfilling, full circle moment. And I just think that it's so cool, but you've always been someone who's like put on for Seattle. You've been just like, you love, and yes, born and raised here, both from the Central District.
Yeah.
But you have always been like that through and through. And I honestly think it would be cool for folks to know how the fam even got here, like how your family even made its way here that makes Seattle so significant to you. Some history lessons, everyone. Take us back to Shreveport.
Right. I don't want to. My family will correct me if I'm wrong when they see this.
Just give us like the summary, you know.
Yeah. So my great grandfather and great grandmother, if I'm not mistaken, was in Shreveport, and I want to say my grandfather came up to Seattle around the time maybe the Great Migration, when a lot of people from the South were trying to escape racism from the South and better job opportunities up north from the South, things like that. So my great grandfather, junior, he's a junior, came up here to Seattle and saw opportunity in business. There was a bunch of land to be bought, and they had money. Sharecropping family and hardworking family working in the field, they come up here and it's like they were used to putting in a lot of manual labor work. So coming up here and there's different types of jobs that aren't as labor centered. It was almost easier, I guess you could say, the way of living. So coming up here, my grandfather did that and then went back to Shreveport and was like, hey, we need to move up to Seattle. There's opportunity, there's land, we gotta come up here. And so the family was like, sure, let's do it. I mean, I'm sure there was maybe some pushback or maybe more than just that kind of conversation, but they moved up here to Seattle in the Central District specifically, and been owning property in the Central District, which is, and I'm purposely including that in there because that's important for the CD and gentrification and things like that that's been going on. But specifically own property in the CD, on Cherry, I want to say Yesler, and still to this day own property, and I'm blessed to say that. I'm not saying that's a brag. I'm not saying that's I'm not saying that like with like being pompous. I'm really, really, really just proud and blessed to be able to say that we still own some property in the neighborhood, because a lot of people I know aren't in the neighborhood anymore for many different reasons. But when it was just grandma or grandma and grandpa, instead of, or great grandma for me and grandpa, we leaned in on family, and I'm big on that, and we made sure that, all right, obviously the elders are getting older. Let's take care of them. Let's help them. And then from what I know, again, I could be wrong, the title of the house got passed down. You know what I mean? Instead of it getting sold.
I mean, that is so in good step with your own personal values from coming up. I mean, I remember we all went to Garfield. Go Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Let's just clear every camera. Go Bulldogs.
Come on.
And going to Garfield, your sister, one of your younger sisters and I, or that's my girl. And when we were coming up, I remember going over the house and chopping up with you, and you were just always spitting knowledge about black owned. One time you had a fro.
Yeah. I still be rocking my fro. Yeah. That's forever.
Let's just get that straight.
Yeah.
And you were always just being intentional about that conversation, reading books on it. This is before 2020, and it's no shade to anyone who's like had racial reckoning, awakening during 2020. But this is just something that you were raised on, we were raised on, just coming up. That's how it was. But you were very intentional about ownership, Black culture, knowing your history, the African diaspora, etc. And I think the discussion about family and legacy was so evident for you. And I'm speaking as someone who knows this stuff, guys. I'm not just making this up.
Right.
But it's so evident for you. And now here you are coming into your own as a father. Oh,
it's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. It's full circle. And also I want to touch on with home ownership. The word ownership. So people who've maybe followed me on social media or know me personally, the reason why I push, and I'm wearing his stuff right now, but the reason why I push Nipsey's brand and his messages so much is because, like I just explained, and like you said, even before I knew who he was as an artist, I've always been shown, more so than told, the importance of ownership, whether it be in your house, whether it be in a business, whether it be in your words, own your words, you know, like just ownership for real. Like, so once I caught a wind of his music and his message, I was like, hey, he's talking I know what he's saying. I know what oh man, so again, before he passed, I tried to tell everybody about him because I wanted to enlighten people, not just my people, but everybody. Like, yo, he's telling people the American dream, so to speak, and he's telling people like this is the way to go. I mean, obviously you have to have people who work and workers, but owners, you can work and still be an owner. But I just wanted to bring light to that because it's always been something I've wanted to tell people, and since we got a platform here, I'm gonna use this platform to tell people like that's the reason why I push his stuff so hard. So yeah, ownership is important. Yeah.
I mean, even to that, this is an estimation off the top of my head, just from doing research about the Central District, being a sixth generation Seattleite. It's wild, sixth generation, right?
5 or 6, yeah.
Yeah. I think we have maybe 40% of families, Black families, properties no longer being in our domain.
In the CD?
In the CD. People who've just like been displaced or had to move, or, you know, terrible loaning incidents. Redlining.
I read somewhere in the Seattle Times, it had to be like 2012. I was still in high school. And it said in the 70s, it was like around 70%. The CD was like 70% African American.
Yep, I know what you're talking about too.
And then it showed the timeline of like decade by decade how it got smaller and smaller. And now 2012 was when I read this, so now it's probably even less than what it was in 2012. But in 2012, it showed that the African American population went from like 76%, 73% to like 8 or less.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was in 2012. So today,
over 10 years later, we're talking about 11 years ago, you read that.
And we're talking about it. That is what gentrification is. Gentrification is not something that happens overnight. It's a process. It's a 50, 40-year thing. It's not something that just, people are moving in and they're putting this and we're moving out and we're getting pushed out and we're getting bought out. And so it's a long process, but it's a system. It's systematic, very much so.
We could talk about this all day, but we're going to say this for another episode because people are here to get to know you.
Right.
And I hope that laid a stage for how informed and knowledgeable you are on these topics, and specifically the place you call home, which is Seattle.
Absolutely.
More in depth, the Central District. And so, I mean, another part of the family coming up here, your family coming up here from Shreveport, my folks also from Shreveport, Louisiana, and settling in the Central District, one big piece and component of your life for the entirety of your life has been sports and athletics, and specifically track. I mean, talk a little bit about that, your experience in that. I'm laughing because I'm like, this has literally been a part of your whole life. Like, and it's like generational. It's a familial activity, passion.
Yep.
Speaks a little bit to that.
Yeah, so part of my identity is being an athlete and playing sports. Track specifically, my father ran track. My uncle Ivory, Joe Harris, ran track for Garfield and then went to Oregon, ran for Oregon. My dad ran and jumped for UW, triple jump.
Go Huskies.
Yeah, I ran for Garfield, and then AAU track, I ran for high voltage, and I also jumped and ran for Wazoo. So since I was little, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, the first track team I was on was in Tacoma. It was like the Tacoma Cheetahs or something.
Let's pause there, though.
Okay.
Because you have a unique experience. I mean, some of us have it, but you have an experience where Tacoma, you have a base there, but then also Seattle. Yep. So literally SeaTac experience.
I am SeaTac.
I am SeaTac.
Yes, I am, yeah.
So not to cut you off, but we're going to get to that because that's interesting. Yep. Yeah. So track in Tacoma.
Yep. I think the Tacoma Cheetahs, I think that was like the first track team I ever ran on. And just being, when I was younger, being one of the taller students or kids, I was always easy. Like, I had a longer stride, so I was faster. I could jump. So I was like top of the tier athlete. And then as I got older, I was like, I'm not the fastest. Like, I got big feet. I'm tall, and I didn't have like special coaches to help train me to be a sprinter. I didn't have the biggest thighs because most of the sprinters have like larger thighs and stuff like that. And I wasn't ever lifting weights until I got older. So my dad was like, why don't you try hurdles? Why don't you try jumping? Do this, do that. And it was to find my thing, you know what I mean, in track. And once I the first time I ever long jumped, triple jumped, and I started winning. You know, you like stuff once you start winning at it.
That
I was
part.
getting like 8th place, 12th place in the 100, and I was like, man, I'm done with track. I'm gonna just try to be a hooper. I might be done with sports altogether. But when I started running track and taking it more seriously and really putting in more work in my craft, and I realized what the long triple high jump was, and I started long and tripling. I started winning, and I started, you know, having this confidence and this self-esteem boost. It was like, oh yeah, I'm taking this as far as it can go. This is fun. Now it's fun because I'm winning, and now I want to put in more work to get to college and the next thing. And we could talk about that too. Like, really, I always wanted to go to college, no matter what, sports or not, or no sports. But that gave me like more push and drive to want to go to college. And I'm saying, like, a lot of students, especially of color who look like us, I feel like sometimes the only purpose of them wanting to go to college is because I got that scholarship, and if they didn't, then they might not go. So
Yeah.
I was always gonna go regardless. It didn't matter. But track definitely gave me a push as to want to go and get a degree and have a better life and all these other things and stuff like that.
And be fair, I mean, we're raised in a city that is super athletic bound, specifically in the field of basketball. We know that's like huge. But we know historically in our community, if you couldn't afford it, sports was your key to college for some.
Yep.
And so that is a good point. Plus, you've had that example of folks who just were like, higher education is the way to go.
Yep.
So it's a part of your familial culture.
Higher education, and I have to add, and owning businesses
And
stuff.
owning business. You're like the ownership part.
Well,
heavy on the
because
ownership.
it went either way. Some of them they learned a trade and then started a business. Some of
Yeah.
them went to school and they sit on their degree. So
Yeah.
it was like either way, it can happen.
It can happen.
This success, right?
I mean, the idea of having something modeled for you is so significant. Examples, even you touching on Nipsey, like
Yeah.
hearing a sound, hearing a message that resonated with you yourself and your lived experience. That makes you feel, again, seen like you belong
Yeah.
and that your experiences are valid. I'm thinking about, growing up between, I'm thinking about you growing up between here and Tacoma. Speak to that, because you talked about being on the Cheetahs.
Yeah. I know for sure that was the mascot. I don't remember the name of the team though. And I think my aunt April was one of the assistant coaches or coach for that. And it was me and all my cousins. Literally on my mom's side, I got a lot of first cousins. Like I got like a dozen first cousins, so it was all of us. Like I could name drop right now, but it was all of us. So it
Y'all
was like
know
a
who
family
you
thing.
are.
Yeah, y'all know who you are. But growing up, it was fun going back and forth from Tacoma to Seattle and back and forth. So I grew up in a split household. My mom and my mom's side of the family lived in Tacoma, Hilltop specifically, growing up for them. And then my dad's side of the family, Seattle, Central District specifically. So
Two predominant black neighborhoods, just for people who aren't familiar with the two different areas.
Exactly.
Historically, predominantly black neighborhoods, black entrepreneurship.
so I'm black. I'm black.
Cue the
You
song.
know? Right. We should definitely put that as
Just,
you said.
drop it in.
But to give you guys a background about that, so growing up, I was saying my family, split household. So mom's side Tacoma, dad's side Seattle. Growing up, it was fun going back and forth, but I lived with my mom for like 9 to 10 months out the year. And then I would go to live with my dad in Seattle and my dad's side of the family for like 2 to 3 months out the year in the summertime. And it wasn't until like 7th grade or 8th grade when I officially started living in Seattle. But I was going back and forth between Madrona, K through 8, 6th grade, Life Christian Academy, 7th grade, and that's where I met Killa's brother Lionel. And then 8th grade, I went to Washington, and then I've just been in Seattle ever since. But I loved it. I mean, I love what each city has to offer and what it has to bring to the people, and especially the two predominantly black neighborhoods, and growing up and seeing the pride of who we are and how we identify ourselves in each city. But then I also noticed a divide, and I didn't like it because I felt like I was in the middle. I got mad when somebody was talking crazy about Tacoma, and I know the Tacoma aroma, you know when you drive up it smells or whatever.
It
but
is a thing.
It is
It
a
is a
thing.
thing.
I don't know. Is it the Puget Sound? Is that why it stinks, or
I don't
some
know.
lake or something?
Maybe paper mill. It might be. But I think it's always been a question, and that's the problem.
Right.
Tacoma,
Right.
answer the question.
So
Why
yeah,
does
let
it
us know
stink?
in the comments why when you're coming off the highway, right when you see the Tacoma Dome, right in that area, just that one area, it smells
It's
so
just
bad.
terrible.
But I got offended because I was like, just because of that one thing, people would bash the city and they would say the people in Tacoma are, you know, lower than or less than. And, me being born in Tacoma, I'm like, so what you saying about me? Like, hold on, because I'm born in Tacoma. So, and then also again for Seattle, people looking at Seattle like, oh, they're bougie up there. They think they're better than. And I was like, no, because I live over there, and when I go over there, it's love. Like it's not that, but I really do think that that's a divide and conquer tactic from splitting black folks up and making them go against each other, and that goes all the way back from
Way back when.
way back when, y'all know. So and I never cared about that. I always wanted to be the bridge in that gap. I always wanted to be the person or try to be one of the people who bridges Tacoma and Seattle in some kind of way, because one, I'm from both places, and then two, we all going through the same things. We're all the same person, same people, you know what I mean? Like I didn't care about none of that. So but I loved each and everything that each city had to offer, and I still go to the fish house in Tacoma, still go up on the hilltop, you know what
You
I
go
mean?
in there, you're gonna
J
smell like
Street,
fish. You're gonna
yeah,
walk out smell
yep.
like fish. Yep.
Pack Avenue, Pack Highway, but I hit
Southern
my
Kitchen.
spots. Southern Kitchen, shout out to
Yep.
Southern Kitchen, man. Oh my gosh, they got the lemonades with the foam.
Yeah. Shout out to Mr. Bobby White. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
All of it for sure, because our family's newspaper, The Facts, we had a Tacoma Facts. So it was that same. I don't think you knew this.
I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
So it was that same thing when my dad, early 2000s, him and my mom going to plant that there, and
Is it still there?
it is. We still have reached there, but not our physical space. But it's that same dynamic of like getting into the community and just building trust. I feel like sometimes we know that there's a need, but we won't really spend the time. And I think character is revealed in time spent. How much equity do you have in the relationships that you're building? And that's what I recognize can be done within the community. Just like how much equity are you spending, But you touched on something, because you're such like a knowledgeable scholar.
Yeah, thank you.
But it's the whole family: books, videos, podcasts. Like you've been on this before it was a thing.
Right.
But something that I hear you talking about as well that makes me curious is balance. Because was balance a presence in your life? Thinking about going back and forth between like your parents' home, but also back and forth between two different regions of the state. And so how do you understand balance? How has that informed your life? And especially when going off to college, because I know that was it was a different experience for you. Weren't expecting that one.
Nah. So balance has been, and it's funny you asked that, because that's a thing for me. So balance has been something that I've had to, I won't say battle, but learn how to have over time. Not just with the cities, but my own personal life experiences, and I think it's because of all the moving around that I've done. And then what would you say about college?
Yeah, and then going off to college, because I think that character is such an important topic that sometimes gets wiped over, because we live in a generation. You're flowing with me. We live in a generation that we love personalities because there's a highlight reel, right?
Yeah.
And then when it's time to buckle in, it takes time, just like when we talked about Tacoma, to get to know character. And I feel like here, the podcast, you guys are really investing in people sharing their character, right? Following people long term, not just for the moment, and the character of the city, the culture, right?
Right.
So it's like for you yourself as a person and developing that, how it informs how you move your day to day and your own personal culture.
Yeah.
So when heading off to college and that being a thing that you're already cultivating, especially now as a parent, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. But what was that like? And how could you encourage folks who are balancing that, the identity, like as an athlete, someone who was raised in a split parent household?
Yeah, man. It's
You know?
nah, man, excuse me.
I know what you mean, though.
Yeah,
You're good.
yeah. Well, I want to be intentional about my words, because words have power and meaning.
That part.
But Yeah. So if you're going off to college or starting a business venture or leaving the country or whatever it is, you know, especially as like athletes, if you've been an athlete your whole life or something like that, I would say find something outside of that sport that you're interested in to kind of cling to and learn about, whether it's learning another language or having a friend group that doesn't have nothing to do with track, football, basketball, tennis, whatever it is. Because and I kind of geeked out like that, like in high school. Like I had friends who didn't play sports at all because I knew I was like, I'm not about to surround myself only with athletes because this isn't gonna be forever. Well, it's gonna be forever. It's forever.
Yeah.
But in the sense of like that's not the only thing that I am. That's not the only part of my identity.
More than an athlete.
More than an athlete. So I would say yeah, read a book, go hiking, for real, go hiking. And I mean if you can meditate, learn thyself, know thyself, right? Like that's important. If you don't know yourself, then when you get to college or get to the pros or get to wherever,
Yeah.
you know, depending on the sport, when it's over, because one day it will be, even if you're coaching or training, when it's over, you're going to feel like, what do I do now? And I struggle with that. And maybe that's why you were asking that. But I had ran track all my life. I played ball all my life. I played football. I was a part of every sport you could think of.
Yeah.
And when I got to college and I'm away from family and I'm doing my own thing, you know, as a man now, I felt kind of lost. I was like, man, I don't have balance. I thought I did, but it was when I was around familiar faces, familiar places, and got to college and was like, man, and I just had to figure it out. You know what I mean? And it was really, really difficult. So to the high schoolers out there and to, you know, even the kids in college, man, for real, like you guys, middle schoolers too, if you guys are watching this, really, really be diverse, be well-rounded. You know what I mean? Because that'll take you a lot further than just the sport itself.
Yeah.
And you want to get into other doors than just the ones that'll open up for you for the sports too.
Yeah. And it's about being deliberate too. Because if you didn't get that in upbringing, then you're like coming into yourself. You have to seek it out. And something that came to mind before we did this morning, I was thinking, because you know, I be marinating.
Thinking, yeah.
Thinking about my thoughts.
Processing.
But something I thought about was, man, we were on the phone and we got off the phone. I was like, this guy, I've seen him get hyped up, passionate about what he knows. You know, like what he knows he's passionate about. And specifically when you were more active in your athletics, you were like, let's go.
Yeah.
Seahawks beast mode.
Right.
But today, this morning on the phone, y'all, that same energy about the podcast. And I'm like, this is so exciting to see him take that same passion and apply it to something new. Like people get stagnant and they feel like everything that they do revolves around what they know the most. But you have actually invested that time into other areas. And it was like, so I wonder 10 years from now what that energy will be applied to. But I know, had to get to Nisi. I know that it will forever be applied to little mama.
Little Jiraiya.
Let's talk about it.
Fatherhood.
Fatherhood. Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
And you are an active dad. Let's just get that out there.
Yeah.
He's an active dad, okay? I know sometimes people are like, that's what you're supposed to do, but it's important to see that you're active dad.
Yep. So Jiraiya, my daughter Jiraiya was born 12:17 a.m. I was hoping it was 12:18 because I was born December 18th. So she was born 12:17 on August 20th. So she's almost one. And I know a lot of people do the gender reveals and stuff like that, but I didn't care. You know, me and my girl didn't care. We was like, you know, we really just prayed to God that we had a healthy baby because I know people say that, but they don't really mean it. Like, I want to know because I want to get the room decorated. I want to get the clothes. We didn't care about none of that. I just want my baby to be healthy, like period. So when she came into this world, and I caught her, by the way, like I was there, like I caught her, she had a couple real tears, man. Like it's a surreal
Beautiful.
experience. Like that was wild, but you know, especially seeing everything like. It's not for the faint of heart, but it definitely changed me as a man, as a person. Fatherhood has been something I've been getting accustomed to, and I'll say like the people in my life, I think they're getting accustomed to me getting accustomed to fatherhood because I'm not the same. I am the same person. I'm still jabbing, but a little bit is different. Like if and I know people say this all the time, but it's not just about money. But if it's not about like some money, or if it's not like something really important, I'm not leaving, bro. Like I gotta be with her. Like I'm taking her to the park, I'm feeding her, I'm clothing her, I'm spending time with her. And as she gets older and wants to do her own thing and be independent, you know, then maybe I'll have more time. But right now, like if we linking up, we got to go to like a game. Anything I do has to be like, can she come? If she can't, I'm not going. You know, because again, I'm gonna do a lot of Nipsey quotes. But I heard Nip say he was like, you know, children spell time, children spell love Time. So I gotta give her, to show her that I love her, I gotta spend quality time with her. That's like the 5 acts of love, right? There's like the
love languages,
quality
time.
Yeah. Quality
No,
time is one of them. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm huge on that. I'm not playing about that. And yeah, fatherhood's been amazing, man. I love her, and she'll probably be here later on today. And if you follow me on Instagram or anything, she's all over my page. And I at first I didn't want to show her off to the world because I was like, let's take this first year to like kind of, you know, just do us. But now I'm like, nah, man, she's, you know, this is God's gift to us as parents, but then also to the world. Like you being here, even though you're somebody's child, but you're sharing your light and your knowledge and everything with the world. So I had to learn I'm still learning how to like let go. And it hasn't even been a year, but I have to start training myself now to be like, bro, you can't, she's yours, but you gotta, you know, let other people experience her. And that's been difficult as hell.
I have something to encourage you. You know, I like listening to podcasts, and I tapped in with this podcast recently, and these 2 guys, men of God, they were talking about how God gives us gifts and how we're tight-fisted with things. And one of the guys, now I'm not a parent. I'm not a parent. I got
just for the FYI
time, but I could say that in his paraphrasing, in his statement, he was saying that, you know, same thing with kids, parents with their kids, they hold on to them because it's from a place of love and wanting to preserve their innocence and protect and their purity, their love. But he was saying something, and the way he said it was so good. He said, but we have to trust God with our kid. And we have to trust that God will do for them to become all that they're called to be and hand them over. And I instantly like screen recorded it, sent it to my mom and dad. It was like, you know, yo, thank you for trusting God with me. Like, thank you for the times that I had to like be a little bit of a mess. Things I had to like, the rough walls I had to like rub up against because it built my character. And it just like shaped and carved me and allowed my light to be even more vibrant. So that's just something I give to you. One day she will watch this. So
it's crazy to think about, but
you know, but it's building up. And so, yes, she's very young. I get that completely.
Not even walking yet.
But ultimately, in the long term, she will come to you and her mom one day and say, thank you. You know, trust God with her.
I hope so. And also, I want to piggyback on what you said. Yes, I 100% trust God. Like my spirituality, my faith has grown stronger since she's been born. But I also
speak to that.
Speak to what?
Speak to that. How it's grown.
How it's grown. I do a lot more praying. Like when it was just me by myself. You know, I pray over my food. I might say a prayer before I go to sleep. You know, have a little like when things get bad, I'll talk to God or whatever. But now it's like I wake up, pray. Middle of the day, pray. You know, I made it to where I went safely, pray. And I'm just giving thanks. And anytime I feel flustered or anxious, you know, prayer. Like, you know, before I got on the mic, we prayed. You know what I mean? Like every chance I get, I'm giving them praise. And, you know what I mean? Because I don't take this life for granted. Like it's precious. And I think that really started to kick in. I always felt like that, but it really started to kick in once I had my daughter. So it was like, nah, man. And my relationship with the divine or with God, you know what I mean? It's been starting to understand more. I'm starting to understand more.
Jesus is great. I just say it straight out. Jesus is great. Like it takes, I so agree. Like with you in the year, it's been, I don't know, I'm like, Janice, Jirai, I don't know what I call her just yet.
I'll call her Juju.
Juju? Yeah. Okay, I would take that one up. But I mean, all of these things have come into fruition because it started in you, and then it's come forth. So I'm
Literally.
excited to follow the journey.
Yeah.
What can people expect? Give me like a sentence runner
What can people expect?
from this podcast, from you. How can they follow your journey?
Well, one, if you want to follow me on Instagram, people can expect a lot of community building, promotion into people and their brands and who they are. A lot of support within the community, and just putting people up on this platform and letting them tell their story. Really, we're giving people an extra voice. I know we got social media, but this is really,
Yeah.
really open up and talk about some real things. It's kind of like a little social, I'll say like not a venting session, but I don't want to say therapy, but kind of, because like for me, opening up and talking is like therapy. Like this right here is like therapy, because some of the stuff I've never told anybody. So yeah,
It's gonna help a lot of people too.
yeah. So if you have a business, hit us up on Instagram, TOFTT_ podcast. And, if you have merch, if you have a service, if you're a athlete, if you are an entertainer or artist in the area, and even though we say Seattle a lot, it's just the whole Pacific Northwest.
Because you're
know.
SeaTac.
Right, exactly. So Tacoma, Fayette, Kent, Renton, the whole area.
Auburn.
Auburn.
Yep.
Yep.
I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, sis. Appreciate
It's been
it.
the Talk of the Town.
Yep.